In tonight's Top Gear, classy convertibles, Vicky bids farewell to summer. Tiff's on board a world-beating sports car, made in Britain. And I go upmarket in Peugeot's new 607.
I know you think the British car industry has died a horrible death. Yes, all our major marques, apart from Rover, have been sold to multinationals. But that's not the end of the story, as we've come here to prove it's still alive and kicking. We still have over 50 manufacturers making cars in Britain. We are the leading sports car manufacturer in the world. Here in Anglesey, Top Gear organised this unique collection of British sports car manufacturers. The heritage and diversity shine through. Traditional open-top two-seaters, speed freaks and luxury GTs are all there. All are still in production, but more importantly, new ones are constantly coming onto the market. And this is one of the very latest. The Strathcarron SC5A. It's the brainchild of one man, Ian Macpherson, and it's named after his father, Lord Strathcarron. It's taken a group of 30 investors 3 years and over £2 million of their money to get it this far. And now it's ready to go into production with two versions, one for the road and one for the track.
It's got a lightweight aluminium monocoque construction and tips the scales at just 550 kilos. It's powered by a tweaked up Triumph 1200cc motorbike engine that gives it 125 horsepower and the power to weight ratio of a Porsche 911.
Which gets it to 60 in less than 6 seconds and on to a top speed of 125 miles an hour.
Now, as this is a pre-production model, I'm not supposed to push it right to the limit. But as the chassis and suspension were designed by Reynard Motorsports, when they weren't busy designing Jacques Villeneuve's Formula One car, we can assume it should handle pretty well. And even at these speeds, it's putting a smile on my face.
Under the funky suit, it's all pretty basic. Production models will have a clip-on roof and a heater, but there'll be no doors, no windows and no radio. It's got a stubby aluminium gear lever on the driver's right with a sequential shift and minimal racing car instrumentation.
And out on the roads, it's even more fun. 30 feels like 60, 60 feels like 160. And the ride quality is also surprisingly good. It doesn't bump, shake or rattle. Mind you, one can't help but feel that a long journey might test the senses.
The Strathcarron provides a great hands-on experience. At £25,000, it doesn't come cheap. But later, I'll be testing an upmarket British sports car which isn't ashamed of a price tag almost double that.
As a nation, the French love luxury. They love fancy clothes, perfumes, fashions and food, and they're very good at it. Good at expensive cheese, yes, but at expensive cars? No, not really. Which probably explains why you haven't seen any of these three since John Major was still at number 10. The range-topping Renault Safran, the Citroën XM and the Peugeot 605. None of them is particularly bad, they're just not particularly good either. And what's more, they've all given horrifying new meaning to the word depreciation. But the big French car manufacturers are fighting back, and this, the Peugeot 607, is the first to arrive in the UK. 6 months behind schedule. Why? Well, the 607's launch has been delayed by a serious safety problem. Like the Audi TT and the Mercedes-Benz A-Class, early 607s suffered from handling instability woes. Peugeot's summary of the situation was that drivers would make a steering correction in a fast bend, feel that nothing was happening, steer some more, and then the first steering correction would take effect. Obviously a pretty terrifying thought. So, first things first, we've come to a private test track to find out exactly how this thing handles. Okay, so this is hardly what the average 607 driver's likely to get up to, but the steering and suspension tweaks seem to have done the trick. Having said that though, its tail can easily be made to step out, and while smaller Peugeots have a well-deserved reputation for lively handling, somehow it doesn't feel quite right in a car this size.
Right then, that's the handling test over with. What else? Oh yeah, is the rest of the car any good? It's very imposing, that's for sure. And that's half the battle in the corporate car park. But I'd be lying if I said I thought the 607 was particularly elegant, although I suppose it does have a certain gravitas. Mind you, arriving in the company car park is one thing. Arriving in something that, well, it looks to me as though someone has taken an innocent little Peugeot 206, shoved a straw up its exhaust pipe and then blown really hard. It's these headlamps, they're just too big. And this grille, well, it's pretty gormless looking. And as for this bumper, well look, let's face it, it's all of it. I don't know what you're looking so proud about, mate. Ah, now this is more like it. His little friend round the back here is far better off. Nice detailing, boot that opens itself, it's positively cavernous in there. In fact, from the rear three quarters, it just looks cleaner, more coherent and more striking. The panel gaps are nice and tight. The paintwork's lustrous. In fact, overall, well, I think Peugeot's making real progress as far as its build quality is concerned.
And once on the move, you'll see an even bigger improvement inside. The 607 looks and feels like a much higher quality item than Peugeot usually manages. Look, lovely leather trim. And a dash that isn't made of elephant hide.
The question is, does the 607 make me feel like an executive driving home after a particularly successful day's toil at the capitalist cliff face? Yes, it does. These aren't seats, they're armchairs, and the dashboard has an impressively imperious sweep to it.
Peugeot's biggest also has fancy multiplex wiring, which means multiple electronic features like satellite navigation and a GSM telephone, which comes as standard. In fact, everything from intelligent windscreen wipers through to automatic dipping headlights and parking radar sensors are included.
And there are no less than 4 column stocks. It's not so much like driving a car as playing the drums. Overall though, well, if it wasn't for the fiddly graphics in these displays here and the fact that some Burke and Peugeot's UK marketing department has decreed that all 607s must have shiny wooden trim, this would be a very well executed interior.
The range includes a diesel and a V6, but this 2.2 SE version is fantastic value at £24,295. With 160 bhp, it's fast enough for most drivers. It'll do 60 miles per hour in about 9 seconds, and it's smooth and civilised at motorway speeds. Any other gripes? Well, the gear change is a bit ponderous, but its biggest problem is that BMW, Audi and Jaguar do this sort of thing so well, especially in the badge-obsessed UK market.
It's a nice car, the 607, an easy sort of car and an entirely credible alternative to the Vauxhall Omega. It's a Sunday morning on wheels, if that's what you're after. Me? Well, I kind of like my cars to have more of the Friday or Saturday night about them, and for that, well, it just can't beat the BMW 5 Series.
Still to come on
Which family car regularly sells 23,000 in the UK, outselling the Audi A4, Nissan Primera and Honda Accord? No? Well, it's just been revamped and is celebrating its 5th birthday. Well, it's the new Volvo S40.
If you can spot the facial changes, you really ought to be getting out more. The nips and tucks are minimal, but it's aged well and still has more clout than its Japanese rivals.
OK, I know there's a lot of grey plastic, but it's solid, knuckle-breaking solid. And I quite like the way they've taken the design from the larger cars and plumbed it into this one. No surprises, but no glitches. 6 out of 10. This is the T4, the flagship model. T4 standing for turbocharged 4-cylinder. Now, what Volvo have done is they've boosted it from 1.9 to 2 litres. It's still got the same power and torque, but it's all done in terms of refinement. There's not too much lag, and the power, come on, is there when you need it. 7.3 seconds 0 to 60 and a top speed of 146 miles an hour. A serious car which happens to be seriously quick. 8 out of 10. The main changes to the car are a wider track, longer wheelbase and altered front suspension, which alters nothing really. It's exactly the same as it was before. It'll go round corners all right, but it hasn't got the Hong Kong Phooey reflexes for it to be truly exciting to drive. And if you plough into a corner, all you're going to get is loads of understeer. Grippy, but not gripping, 6 out of 10. At £20,765, this is a fair swap for the performance. But you're not getting spoilt here. All they're treating you to is alloy wheels, leather steering wheel, and this dinky little spoiler. If, say, you wanted metallic paint, that's going to be another 500 quid. What you will get, though, is Group 16 insurance and an economy of 32 miles to the gallon. Speedy but Spartan, 7 out of 10. If you want an Audi that can keep up with it, you'd have to go for the A4 2.8 V6 Quattro. That is another 8 grand. Ooh, what a choker. If you wanted the Accord, it would be the Type R. That's £2,000 more, but comes with more toys.
So if you're after a fast family saloon, then up against the competition, the Volvo S40 scores a respectable 7 out of 10.
More heavyweight than the Japanese and quicker for the money than the Germans.
So when you stack it up and average it out, the Top Gear verdict on the Volvo S40 T4 is a safe 7 out of 10.
A child screaming is just about the most stressful noise on the planet. But in the confines of a car, it's the most stressful noise in the universe. And even when they get older, it doesn't really get any better. On a long journey, these little lambs in the back are time bombs of boredom. What they want to do is this.
La la la! Ow!
But they can't. So inevitably, the car becomes this. In the good old days, we used to shrug off kiddie car chaos, but we can't anymore because a recent survey has shown that 7% of accidents are now caused by child distraction. So what's the answer? Well, you could buy an in-car cinema complete with TV screens and video players. The problem is, though, they cost hundreds and hundreds of pounds. There is, however, another solution. A new age remedy for this old age problem. It comes from the world of Feng Shui, a Far Eastern philosophy now all the rage amongst trendy British folk, which involves doing odd things to your house to channel its positive energy. So this man has developed a Feng Shui stress-busting kit for the car.
First and foremost, I think in any glove compartment you should have a photograph of one's family. This will promote a sense of well-being.
This has to be something to do with it, unless you're a Morris dancer.
What we're trying to do here is, with the essence, the oils on the dashboard, we can actually drop 1 or 2 drops onto the edge of the ribbon. This particular one, Lang Lang, is very good for diffusing anger in the driver, particularly when the driver is under a stressful situation.
Road rage.
Road rage, perhaps.
That's the driver. What about children?
Well,
Does it work on the children?
It does have an effect. That's a very important point, because it does have a similar effect on all those travelling within the car space.
Yeah. My mum had a remedy, which was like a clout around the ear roll. It was a very cheap kit that she put together. Besides the ribbons and oils, Damien also scatters special pebbles around your car. But don't think they're there for throwing at bratty kids.
Well, basically, these are crystals with healing properties. Well, this first one is an orange redstone. It's called carnelian. This one helps to focus the mind into the present.
Along with the crystals, Damien's kit will also include a cassette containing special soothing noises, which the whole family can chant whilst driving.
So if you were to repeat ba, 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 Yeah, it's
Like
important.
sheep.
Well, more or less.
That feels a bit daft.
It does feel daft.
I'm
but
going to
once...
do it again. I'm going to do it. Ba, 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 ba.
Try and keep it constant.
Well, okay. Okay. Ba, 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 ba.
We want the tape! We want the tape!
Yeah, all right.
We want the tape!
Damien's stress-busting feng shui kit should be on sale just before Christmas. Or hopefully sooner than that.
Stay with us.
You to drive it.
Plus, our take on what's making the news in the car world.
As we come to the end of yet another summer without the sun, you may be surprised to learn that car makers are selling more soft tops in the UK now than ever before. As pretty as all those roadsters are, they can only accommodate 2 bottoms as opposed to 4. So if you do want that extra space, still combined with pace and grace, then traditionally you'd only look at 3 manufacturers: Mercedes-Benz and its CLK, Saab and its 9.3, and BMW, who's recently upped the ante with this, the new 323 Ci. The Merc only arrived 2 years ago, and the Saab just last year. But the question is, has the new Beamer already put them in the shade? The 323 is now brimming with 170 horses from the 2.5-litre straight-six engine borrowed from its hardtop brother. And the similarities don't end there. This car doesn't win any points for originality because you'll have to raid the options list to distinguish it from the millions of other baby BMs on our roads. The basic model will cost you £27,500, but expect to pay a few more grand to turn a few more heads. And let's face it, when you buy one of these, getting noticed is what it's all about. Now equipped with a hands-free electric hood as standard, the 3 Series convertible certainly looks the part. Yes, it's piled on the pound since it was first launched in 1986, but with its short overhangs and its sparkling headlight jewellery, it is the ideal high street trinket. If you're fond of sand dunes and salty air, quaint little villages here and there. Even on a rough road, it manages to promote a coupe-esque ride, and it gives a good all-round involving drive. OK, any saloon-based cabrio will never be as rigid as a purpose-built roadster, but the BM manages to keep its wallowing nicely in check. And not only does the rear-wheel drive chassis entice you wonderfully into a bend, its sporty rasp accompanies you gracefully to 60 in 8.5 seconds, but it could do with more power. Which is exactly what this little number's got, and for less cash. It's also the UK's best-selling convertible. Although it isn't as visually dramatic as Saabs of yesteryear, the 9.3 still has a discreet element of originality. It may lack the sporting snarl of the BMW, but this isn't what the 9.3 is about. Think of it as a tool for basking rather than posing. Its unique look is more than skin deep. Yes, its German rivals have the edge on finish, but the Saab's interior is distinctively crafted. Sadly though, it's not the family friend Saab would have us believe, because when the roof is down, the boot transforms into a glove box, and its problems don't end there. Stepping from the BMW into the Saab feels as though you've just jumped from the Premier Division and into the Vauxhall Conference. And the Vauxhall references don't end there, because the 9.3 has structural relations with the Cavalier and Calibra. To make matters worse, they've thrown a turbo into the equation, which means that if you accelerate enthusiastically, The chassis behaves like the Millennium Bridge on a windy day. However, it is the quickest of the 3 to 60, needing just under 8 seconds. Mercedes may have dropped the price of the CLK over the past few months, but you've still got to pay a comparatively high cost for its kilos of kudos. You do get club class seating for 4 though, and all the usual trimmings that go with that 3-pointed star.
The Mercedes has got more power with a 193 brake, but why is it then that it's the slowest off the mark of the 3?
The CLK weighs in at a hefty 1,600 kilograms. Consequently, its supercharged 4-cylinder engine cannot achieve a spirited drive to 60 with a dismal time of 9.1 seconds. Once wound up though, it has a top speed of 143, and you'll be impressed by how solid this car feels, both when cornering and at higher speeds. In fact, one of this car's best assets is that it's a super smooth cruiser.
There is no doubt that the CLK is incredibly comfortable and it oozes kudos, but for the money it could do with more muscle under the bonnet. If you're looking for a more sensibly priced family cabriolet that looks good in traffic jams, then the Saab 9-3 is a decent buy. It just won't leave you rushing for the car keys. The BMW will. The 323 manages to make owning a convertible a year-round proposition, and it's the only car here to cause a smile whatever the weather.
So here we are, just 4 weeks into the new series, and already the face of motoring has changed dramatically.
Especially for GM. Their Opel subsidiary has just been fined £26 million for not letting its Dutch dealers sell their cars outside the Netherlands. Good job things are looking up back home.
The new car market is still changing on a daily basis, and what was once a trickle of manufacturers dropping their prices is now an absolute torrent, and they're trying ever harder to tempt you from your cash.
These are just some of the firms who have announced better deals in some shape or form, and it keeps on getting better because news is reaching us that some franchise dealers are now even prepared to match the bargain basement prices of car supermarkets.
Unfortunately, you don't get something for nothing. The second-hand car market is currently in freefall, having recorded its biggest price drop in over 2 years, and no sector is safe.
Compared to the same time last year, super minis are down 7%, MPVs are down 9%, whilst executive and family cars are both worth 12% less. The result can be negative equity, where the outstanding finance is more than a car's actually worth. If that affects you, second-hand gurus Cap say keep paying the instalments and clear your debt.
And what's the state of health of the nation's favourite underdog, Rover?
Well, contrary to a Sunday newspaper report, Rover tell us that their business plan is still on course, although the details of the deal with BMW are still being finalised. The 75 production line is now installed at Longbridge and starts up next Wednesday, the same day the last ever Mini is produced. 1,000 voluntary redundancies have been made, and we'll have the latest news from the men in power in our motor show programme.
But all of that is nothing compared to this.
In a unique interpretation of the term price readjustment, TVR have increased the cost of a Tuscan by £9,000 to just over £48,000. You do get an extra £9,000 worth of toys, but if you think you can live without them and want to avoid the higher price, you've got until October 16th to get a deposit down. Better move fast.
From stripped-back basics earlier in the show to the latest luxury GT offering from the British sports car industry, the £45,000 Noble M12 GTO. Last year we tried out Lee Noble's first serious road car, the M10. We loved its road holding and build quality, but weren't too sure about its looks. Well, he's certainly changed that.
The
The M12 is powered by Ford's 24-valve Duratec V6, which normally produces 167 horsepower. But Noble have added a couple of Garrett turbochargers and almost double that figure to 310 brake. This is a car that is just asking you to drive it. There's no limited slip differential fitted as standard, so it's easy to light up the inside rear tyre. But Noble feels that adding one would spoil its road manners. Out on the track, and I can finally let the M12 off its leash, and it simply gets better and better. With the whooshing and twittering of the turbochargers right behind my ear, it reminds me of the Porsche 962 that I used to race at Le Mans. The only difference is this hasn't got real heavy steering. It's got perhaps the best steering I've ever driven. Despite being power assisted, it feels like it's directly connected to the front wheels. And they're front wheels that go exactly where you point them. Lee Noble is a man after my own heart. He hates understeer, but that doesn't mean to say that this chassis is one that instantly goes sideways. Of course it does when you open that throttle wide, but it's instantly controllable. You feel that you're in charge all the time. The whole car has been so well thought through that it makes it such a joy to drive. On the inside, you discover a cockpit with a real quality feel to it. Tasteful two-tone suede soothes the eye, while a multi-contoured instrument panel provides a sporting feast. There's even half a dozen made-to-measure bags for your luggage. The Noble M12 really is a David that can take on the Goliaths. It's sensibly priced, looks stunning, and when it comes to the driving experience, can match the likes of Porsche and Ferrari, not only on the track, but on the roads as well. Like I said at the top of the programme, the British sports car industry is still very much alive and kicking, and there's plenty more to come.
Next week, Top Gear's very own Olympics. Will alternative fuels win gold? Driving instructors take note. The new Vauxhall Corsa has arrived. And why buy an off-roader when you can have an all-roader?